Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome back. Thank you for joining me today, this Sunday evening, and let's continue our reading journey. Today's story: The Exact Science of Matrimony. So, let's begin. As I have told you before, said Jeff Peters, I never had much confidence in the perfidiousness of women. As a partners or co-educators, in the most innocent land of craft, they are not trustworthy. They they deserve the compliment, said I. I think they are entitled to be called the honest sex. Why shouldn't they be? Said Jeff. They've got the other sex either grafting or working overtime for them. They are all right in business until they get their emotions or their hair touched up too much. Then you want to have a flat-footed, heavy breathing man with sandy whiskers, 5 kids, and a building and loan mortgage ready as an understudy to take her desk. Now there was that widow lady that me and Andy Tucker engaged to help us in a little matrimonial agency scheme we floated out in Cairo. When you get enough advertising capital, say a role as big as the little end of a wagon tongue, there is money in matrimonial agencies. We had about 6,000 and we expected to double it in 2 months, which is about as long as a scheme like ours can be carried on without taking out a New Jersey charter. We fixed up an advertisement that read about like this: charming widow, beautiful home loving, 32 years, possessing 2,000 cash and owning valuable country property, would remarry. Would prefer a poor man with affectionate disposition to one with means. As she releases releases that the solid virtues are often offenst are offenst to be found in the humble walks of life. No objection to elder man or one of homely appearance, in faithful and true and competent to manage property and invest money with judgment. Address with particulars lonely. Care of Peters and Tucker Agents, Cairo, ILL, or 3, who knows. So far, so pernicious, says I, when we had finished the literary concoction. And now, says I, where is the lady? And he gives me one of his looks of calm irritation. Jeff, says he, I thought you had lost them ideas of realism in your art. Why should there be a lady when they sell a lot of watered, watered stock on Wall Street, would you expect to find a mermaid in it? What has a marked moral AD got to do with the lady? Now listen, says I. You know my rule, Andy, that in all my illegitimate, illegitimate inroads against the legal letter of the law, the article sought must be existent, visible, producible. In that way, and by a careful study of city ordinances and train shadows, I have kept out of all trouble with the police that the $5 bill and the cigar could not square. Now, to work this scheme, we've got to be able to produce bodily a charming widow of its equivalent with or without the beauty, her 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 dimensions, her dimensions, and appurtenances set forth in the catalogue and writ of errors, or hereafter be held by a justice of the peace. Well, says Andy, reconstructing his mind, maybe it would be safer or in case the post office or the peace commission should try to investigate our agency. But where, he says, could you hope to find a widow who would waste time on a matrimonial scheme that had no matrimony in it? Matrimony in it. I told Andy that I thought I knew of the exact party. An old friend of mine, Zeke Trotter, who used to draw soda water and thief in a tent show, had made his wife a widow a year before by drinking some dyspepsia cure of the old doctors instead of alignment that he always got boozed up on. I used to stop at their house often, and I thought we could get her to work with us. It was only 60 miles to the little town where she lived, so I jumped out on the ice sea and find her in the same cottage with the same sunflowers and roosters standing on the wash tub. Mrs. Trotter fitted our AD first rate, except maybe for beauty and the age and property valuation, but she looked feasible and praiseworthy to the eye, and it was a kindness to Zeg's memory to give her the job. Is this an honest deal? Are you putting on, Mr. Peters? She asks me when I tell her what we want. Mr. Tudor, says I. Andy Tucker and me computed the calculation that 3,000 men in this bored and unfair country will endeavor to secure your faith hand and ostensible money and property through our advertisement. Out of that number, out of that number, something like 30 hundred will expect to give you in exchange if they should win you the carcass of a lazy and mercenary laughter, a failure in life, a swindler, and contemptible fortune seeker. Me and Andy, says I, propose to teach these prayers upon society a lesson. It was with difficulty, says I, that me and Andy, great moral and millennial mal- mal- malevolent matrimonial agency. Does that satisfy you? It does, Mr. Peters, says she. I might have known you wouldn't have gone into anything that wasn't opprobrious. But what will my duties be? Do I have to reject personally these 3,000 ramscallions you speak of? Or can I throw them out in bunches? Your job, Mrs. Trotter, says I, will be particularly a cynosure. You will live at a quiet hotel and will have no work to do. Andy and I will attend to all the correspondence and business end of it. Of course, says I, some of the more ardent and impatience suitors who can raise the railroad fare may come to Cairo to personally press their suit or whatever fraction of a suit they may be wearing. In that case, you will be probably put to the inconvenience of kicking them out of face to face. We'll pay you 25 per week and hotel expenses. Give me 5 minutes, says Mr. Trotter, to get my powder rack and leave the front door key with the neighbor, and you can let my salary begin. So I conveys Mrs. Trotter to Cairo. I conveys Mrs. Trotter to Cairo. And establish her in a family hotel, far enough away from mine and Andy's quarters to be unsuspicious and available. And I tell Andy, great, says Andy. And now that you conscience and appeased as to the tangibly and proximity of the bait, and leaving mutton aside, suppose we revenue and no fish. So we began to insert our advertisement and newspapers covering the country far and wide. One AD was all we used. We couldn't have used more without hiring so many clerks and marceled paraphernalia. that the sound of the gum chewing would have disturbed the postmaster general. I placed 2,000 in bank to Mrs. Trotter's credit and give her the book to show in the case anybody might question the honesty and good faith of the agency. I knew Mrs. Trotter was square and reliable, and it was safe to leave it in her name. With that 1 AD, Andy and me put in 12 hours a day answering letters. About 100 a day was what came in. I never knew there was so many large-hearted but indigent men in the country who were willing to acquire a charming widow and assume the burden of investing her money. All right, guys, we're gonna continue with the second part tomorrow, and let's finish for today. Thank you for listening to me. See you. Bye.